What was Jesus doing during Lucifer's rebellion? Not after it, during it. Before Genesis 1:1, before the first human breath, before light existed, there was a war in heaven. The most beautiful angel God ever created looked at his own reflection and declared war on the throne. And Jesus was there. Luke 10:18, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Not, I heard about it. Not, it was shown to me in a vision. I saw it. Eyewitness, continuous past tense. He was in the room when it happened. And if he truly saw it, then the entire timeline changes. If the rebellion happened before creation, then the serpent that entered the garden was already a defeated being, already fallen, already cast down. Which means the cross was not a reaction. It was not an emergency plan. It may have been designed before the first star ignited. This is not speculation. This is written. And what you are about to hear could change everything you thought you knew about Jesus, about Lucifer, and about yourself. But that single sentence opens questions most preachers never touch. If a kingdom existed before Genesis 1:1, who was already watching when God created the world? The answer is hidden in the oldest book of the Bible, and we will open it in minutes. How does evil begin inside a perfect being, in a perfect place, with no tempter anywhere near him? The prophet Ezekiel recorded the exact diagnosis, a single word that changes everything. And the most disturbing question of all, if God knew Lucifer had fallen, why put the tree in the garden? Why give the serpent access? That answer will stay sealed until near the very end, and it is not what you think. This is not a video about theories. This is an investigation through the oldest texts of Scripture, a deep dive into true biblical mysteries spanning 1,000 years of prophecy from Job to Revelation. 7 witnesses, 7 texts, all pointing to the same impossible conclusion. Before the physical universe existed, there was already a kingdom, a throne, a court of beings older than light itself. And at the highest point of that court, beneath only the throne, stood one being, described in terms no other angel ever received. In the next few minutes, you will uncover hidden truths that change the way you read every page of the Bible. Why humanity was made from dust, not fire. Why every villain in the Old Testament was hunting the same invisible target, and why the same lie that destroyed heaven's most magnificent angel is still whispered today, inside your own mind. Because this war never ended, it only changed battlefields, and the signs of the times suggest you are standing on it. The disciples came back laughing, 72 of them, dust on their sandals, fire in their eyes. They had just returned from the mission of their lives, and they could not contain what they had witnessed. Lord, they said, even the demons submit to us in your name. Darkness had fled at the sound of their voices. Evil spirits had scattered like shadows before a torch. They expected Jesus to celebrate with them. They expected a smile, a blessing, maybe a word of praise, but that is not what happened. Jesus looked at them, and instead of matching their excitement, he said something that went far beyond that afternoon, far beyond their mission, far beyond anything a human being should be able to say. 10 words that cracked open the door to one of the greatest biblical mysteries ever recorded. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Not, I heard about it. Not, it was revealed to me. I saw it. But here's the strange part, the part almost nobody notices. He never explained it. He dropped the sentence and moved on. Why would he leave his own disciples hanging on the edge of the greatest secret in existence? Hold that question, because the answer is buried in what he said next, and in 6 other texts we are about to open. Think about what he was actually claiming. The fall of Satan, whenever it happened, was not an event any human being could have witnessed. There were no cameras, no historians, no survivors to interview. And yet Jesus speaks of it the way a man speaks of something he watched with his own eyes. In the original Greek, the word carries the weight of continuous observation. I was watching. Not a flash, not a dream, a sustained, deliberate act of seeing. Some scholars connect this statement to the disciples' victory that very day, a vision of Satan's defeat unfolding in real time. Others believe Jesus was pulling back the curtain on something far older, a memory before memory existed. But if that second reading is true, then this quiet sentence in the Gospel of Luke is not a teaching moment, it is testimony, eyewitness testimony of an event that predates the world itself, which forces a question that sounds almost forbidden. How old exactly is the man speaking? Where does his memory actually begin? The answer starts with a fisherman named John, who opened his gospel with a sentence so audacious it took the ancient world's breath away. John does not begin in Bethlehem. He does not begin with a manger or shepherds or a star. He begins before time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. Slow down and hear it. Not some things, not later things, all things. Whoever this Word is, he stands on the other side of creation, not as a product of it, but as its source, before atoms, before energy, before the first vibration of matter. And John does not leave the identity a mystery. The Word became flesh. The Word walked in Galilee. The Word ate with fishermen, wept at a tomb, and one afternoon told his disciples, "I saw Satan fall." Suddenly, that strange sentence in Luke stops sounding impossible and starts sounding inevitable. But John is only the first witness. There are 6 more, and one of them is a prayer Jesus prayed alone, in the dark, hours before his execution. A prayer where he asked his Father for something no human being has ever asked for. What was it? You are about to hear it. The night before his crucifixion, Jesus prayed words that most people read too quickly. Alone with his Father, hours before the arrest, hours before the nails, he said, "Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world existed." Read that again. Before the world existed. He is not asking for something new. He is not requesting a reward. He is asking to return to something he remembers, something he once possessed and set aside. This is not the prayer of a prophet. This is not the language of a teacher or a healer. This is homesickness, the ache of someone who once stood in a place no human eye has ever seen and knows exactly what he left behind. Hidden truths like this one sit in plain sight on pages millions of people read every year without stopping, and yet the implication is staggering. The man praying in that garden, sweating in agony, claims a personal past that stretches beyond stars, beyond light, beyond the first tick of time. But praying it in private is one thing. Saying it in public, in front of men holding stones, is another. And he did, with 2 words that nearly got him killed on the spot. Standing before a hostile crowd in Jerusalem, surrounded by men trained in the scriptures from childhood, Jesus declared, "Before Abraham was, I am." The crowd did not scratch their heads. They did not ask for clarification. They picked up stones, because they understood exactly what he was doing. I am was not broken grammar. It was a name, the covenant name of God, spoken from a burning bush to a trembling shepherd named Moses 14 centuries earlier. Jesus took that name, the most sacred sound in Israel's vocabulary, the name so holy that scribes washed their hands before writing it, and applied it to himself. In one sentence, he claimed to exist before the father of their entire nation. The crowd heard blasphemy, a capital offense, but what if they were hearing something else entirely? What if they were hearing a witness calmly identifying himself, stating for the record that his memory reaches back further than their history books, further than their patriarchs, further than the world itself? The stones flew. The claim remained, and across 1,000 years of scripture, voice after voice rose to confirm it, voices that never met, never coordinated, and never contradicted each other. Listen to them. Paul writes that by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. Notice that list carefully. It does not stop at oceans and mountains. It reaches into the invisible world, into ranks and orders of beings most people never think about.
File that detail away. It returns in a few minutes, and when it does, it will open a door you cannot close. The letter to the Hebrews says the worlds themselves were made through him. The prophet Micah, 700 years before Bethlehem, described a coming ruler whose origins are from of old, from everlasting. And in the final book of the Bible, a voice like a trumpet declares, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." Count them now. 7 witnesses, 7 texts, written across 1,000 years by shepherds and kings, prisoners and physicians, all pointing at the same impossible conclusion. He was there before anything was. But there is one more voice, the strangest one of all. Hidden in the oldest poetry of the Old Testament, someone speaks who claims to have stood beside God at creation, rejoicing over a human race that did not yet exist. Who loved us before we were made? Listen.
In the book of Proverbs, wisdom itself speaks. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. Before the earth was, when he established the heavens, I was there. I was beside him like a master craftsman. I was daily his delight, and my delight was with the sons of men. Hear that language. This is not cold theology, this is joy. A presence beside God before the first Adam existed, already delighting in a human race that had not yet been created. Whoever this is, they loved us before we existed. Scholars have debated for centuries whether this passage speaks of Christ directly or of wisdom as a poetic attribute of God. But this much is certain. The Old Testament itself testifies that someone was beside God at creation, someone who rejoiced over humanity before humanity drew breath. So the claim stands. Before Genesis 1:1, someone was already there, watching, present, aware. Now, before we cross into the world that existed before ours, I want to know something. Answer me honestly in the comments with a single word. Had you ever noticed that sentence in Luke before today? Just type yes or no. Because what you are about to see next depends on one uncomfortable fact. If he was there before creation, he was not there alone. Something else was already watching, and it had a throne of its own to lose. Most people open the Bible and assume the story starts at the start. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Simple, clean, nothing before it. But the Bible itself quietly disagrees. Buried in the book of Job, possibly the oldest book in all of Scripture, God speaks to a broken man from inside a whirlwind and asks him a question that shatters the timeline. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions, while the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Stop. Read that again slowly. When the earth was being formed, when its foundations were laid, when its cornerstone was set, there was already an audience. Beings called morning stars, beings called sons of God, and they were not silent observers standing in the dark. They were singing, shouting, celebrating like a crowd at the premiere of a masterpiece. Creation was not performed in an empty theater. It was staged in front of spectators who already existed, which raises the first question this ancient text refuses to answer directly. Who were they, and how many were watching? Keep counting with me. The number, when it comes, will stagger you.
The implication rewrites everything. Genesis 1:1 is not once upon a time. It is the moment God built a stage in front of an audience already seated, already watching, already alive. Before light existed, before matter vibrated into being, before the first molecule, the first atom, the first physical anything, there was already a realm, a dimension of existence older than the universe itself. And here is the detail that changes the picture completely. Everything Scripture shows us about that realm suggests it was not empty and it was not chaotic. It had structure, order, government, ranks, positions, and authority functioning in perfect harmony long before a single star ignited. Think about what that means. The physical universe we live in, the one we measure with telescopes and atomic clocks, the one we call everything, may be the younger of two worlds, a newer wing built onto an ancient house. And at the center of the older world stands a throne. The prophets who were allowed to glimpse that realm came back changed men. Their descriptions read less like poetry and more like classified reports. And the first report contains a detail so strange it defies logic. Perfect beings, flawless, sinless, hiding their own faces. From what? Isaiah saw them, the seraphim, the burning ones, 6 wings each. 2 covered their faces, 2 covered their feet, 2 were for flying. And they cried out to one another without ceasing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory." The sound alone shook the doorposts of the temple. Smoke filled the house, and Isaiah, a prophet, a man of God, collapsed and cried out that he was ruined. But now the answer to our question. These are sinless beings, flawless. They have nothing to hide and nothing to be ashamed of. And yet they cover their own faces, not from guilt, but from the sheer, crushing weight of the holiness in front of them. Even perfection, it seems, cannot look directly at the throne. Even fire shields its eyes. That single image tells you more about the atmosphere of that ancient kingdom than 1,000 explanations ever could. This is not a gentle place of clouds and harps. This is a realm of unbearable glory, where the closest beings to God burn and still cannot bear to look. But the seraphim were not the guardians. That role belongs to another order entirely, being so misrepresented by history that when you hear what they actually looked like, you may never see a church painting the same way again. Forget every image you have of chubby infants with tiny wings. When the prophet Ezekiel encountered the cherubim, he described something closer to a storm than a child. 4 faces on each being, 4 wings, forms flashing like lightning, creatures that never turned as they moved but went straight forward with terrifying precision, wheels within wheels, covered in eyes. Ezekiel struggled for words, repeating the likeness of and the appearance of, as if language itself was failing him. These beings were not decorations, they were guardians. After the fall of man, cherubim were stationed at the entrance of Eden with a flaming sword that turned in every direction. Their golden images were sculpted onto the mercy seat, the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object in all of Israel. Wherever the presence of God rested, the cherubim stood watch. They were the honor guard of heaven itself, positioned at the exact border between the holy and everything else. Burn that detail into your memory. Remember what a cherub is and where a cherub stands, because in a few minutes you are going to meet one specific cherub, and his position was higher than all the rest. First, you need to see the full size of the kingdom he served. Above the choirs and the guardians, Scripture hints at an entire administration. The prophet Daniel saw it in a night vision that left him trembling. 1,000 thousands ministered to him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. Do the math. That is a court of over 100 million beings, serving, standing, arranged in perfect order. There's the answer to the question I asked you to hold. This was the audience at creation. Michael is named as an archangel, a commander, a warrior, the one who would one day stand against the dragon himself. Paul's letters mention thrones, dominions, principalities, powers, rulers and authorities in heavenly places, the exact invisible list I told you to file away. This is not vague spiritual fog. This is the vocabulary of government, ancient, vast, flawlessly organized, an army, a court, an administration older than time. And here is a truth as old as order itself. In every government, in every hierarchy that has ever existed, there is always someone at the top, someone closest to the seat of power, someone trusted with the highest position a created being could ever hold. Heaven was no different, and Scripture preserves his description. written in language so magnificent that no other angel in all 66 books ever received anything like it. Are you ready to meet him? The description is in Ezekiel, inside a passage officially addressed to a human king, the king of Tyre. But as the prophet speaks, the language suddenly lifts off the ground and soars beyond anything a mortal ruler could claim. Listen, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, and gold. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of the stones of fire. No earthly king ever walked in Eden. No mortal ever stood on the mountain of fire. Many believe that behind the king of Tyre, the prophet was describing someone far older, the power behind that throne, the anointed cherub. There it is, the word I told you to remember. Not a soldier at the gate of a garden, but the guardian of the throne room itself. The masterpiece of creation, the highest of the high. And yet, one detail in his design, one gift woven into his very body, may explain everything that went wrong. Can you guess which one? It was the music. The text says his timbrels and pipes, his instruments, were prepared in him on the day he was created, not learned, not practiced, not rehearsed, woven into his very design. He did not perform worship. He was an instrument, built to stand closest to the throne and turn glory into sound. Perfection, beauty, wisdom, music, and unrestricted access to the presence of God himself. He lacked absolutely nothing. He was, by every measure Scripture gives us, the most magnificent being God ever made, the crown jewel of an invisible kingdom. So, before we go one step further, I need to know you are still with me, because what comes next is the exact moment everything broke. If you have made it this far, pause and type the word light in the comments below. It tells me you are truly watching, and it tells the algorithm this story deserves to reach more people. Now, brace yourself, because the very next line in Ezekiel contains what may be the most terrifying phrase in the entire Bible. 11 words, and inside them hides a single word that scholars have circled for centuries, a word that describes how evil was born. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. Did you catch it? The word is found, and what it implies changes everything.
Found. Sit with that word for a moment. Not planted, not injected, not forced in from the outside by some external enemy. Found. Like a crack discovered in a flawless diamond, like a shadow noticed in a room that had only ever known light. Something happened inside the mind of the most beautiful being in existence, and Scripture does not describe an invasion, it describes a discovery, which raises one of the deepest biblical mysteries ever written. How does evil begin inside a perfect being in a perfect place, standing in the unfiltered presence of a perfect God? There was no tempter to blame, no serpent whispering in his ear. He would become the serpent. No fallen world to corrupt him. The world did not exist yet. Whatever went wrong from within. The first sin in history had no external cause, no excuse. No devil made him do it, which means the first evil ever recorded was born in front of a mirror. But what did the mirror show him? What could a flawless being possibly see that would make him destroy himself? The prophet recorded the answer in one devastating line, and when you hear it, check your own reflection, because it may be closer to home than you want it to be. Ezekiel delivers the diagnosis. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. Read that carefully because it hides a truth most people never see. The most dangerous sentence in the universe is not a lie. It is a truth turned inward. Lucifer's beauty was real. God had crafted it. His wisdom was real. God had granted it. His splendor was real. God had designed every gleaming stone of it. Nothing he saw in himself was false. The corruption began the moment he looked at those gifts and forgot the giver. The moment admiration curved inward and became appetite.
He did not look at God and see a rival. He looked at himself and saw a God. That is the anatomy of the first sin, and it is quieter than anyone expects. Not murder, not theft, not violence. Pride. The creature falling in love with its own reflection, slowly forgetting the hands that shaped it. It began in silence, in a heart, in a gaze held 1 second too long, but pride never stays silent forever. Eventually, it speaks. And when this pride finally spoke, it spoke exactly 5 sentences. 5. Count them with me, because you will hear their echo again before this story ends in a place you would never expect. Ezekiel delivers the diagnosis. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. 5 sentences, 5 I wills. Not prayers, not petitions, not requests submitted to the throne. Declarations of war. And notice how each one climbs higher than the last, a staircase of ambition, above his station, above the other angels, above the seat of divine authority, above the very clouds of glory, until the final unthinkable summit. I will be like the Most High. Not to serve God, not to stand beside God, to replace Him. 5 sentences, and with them, rebellion entered a perfect universe for the first time. Evil was not born in a garden, not on the earth, not in a human heart. It was born in the throne room of heaven, from the most beautiful mouth ever created. And the moment those words left his lips, heaven itself had to answer. What happened next has only one honest name. Not a disagreement, not a rebellion put down quietly. Scripture uses the word war, and it comes with a casualty count you will not believe.
And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. Let that scene fill your imagination. The realm of perfect order, the kingdom of singing stars, burning seraphim, and 100 million ministers fractured into 2 armies. Beings of light against beings of light. The commander Michael against the anointed cherub. And here is the number. Revelation says the dragon's tail swept 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. 1/3. Run the math against Daniel's court. If 10,000 times 10,000 stood before the throne, then the beings who fell numbered in the tens of millions. Beings who had shouted for joy at creation, who had sung at the laying of the earth's foundations, now stood against the Creator they once worshipped. The most beautiful angel did not fall alone. He fell as a general, dragging 1/3 of an ancient kingdom down with him. The first casualty count in history was taken in heaven. But one question splits the scholars to this day, and how you answer it changes how you read the entire Bible. When did this war happen? Some place the war before creation itself, in that pre-temporal realm we glimpsed in Job, before Genesis 1:1, before light. Others connect the vision in Revelation to the victory of the cross, reading it as a defeat sealed in history, accomplished at Calvary. The truth is, Scripture does not hand us a calendar. But notice something remarkable. Both roads lead to the same destination. Whenever it happened, before the world or within it, the outcome was identical and irreversible. He was cast down. Nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. Read that sentence again, because its irony is devastating. The being created to cover the throne could no longer find standing room in the kingdom he was designed to protect. The guardian became the exile. The sentinel became the intruder. The light-bearer became the darkness. His very name, Lucifer, morning star, son of the dawn, became a memory of what he threw away. But here is what almost no one asks. The fall itself, the actual moment of expulsion, did anyone see it? Is there an eyewitness anywhere in Scripture? There is, exactly one, and you already know his name.
I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Lightning. Think about what that single word is doing. Not a slow descent, not a dignified exit with terms and conditions. Lightning. Violent, blinding, instantaneous, irreversible. Here one moment, gone the next, leaving only the afterimage burned into the eyes of those who watched. One moment, the most magnificent being in existence stands on the holy mountain among the stones of fire. The next, he is falling, stripped of position, stripped of access, stripped of the covering, stripped of the name that meant morning star. And Jesus watched it happen. The one who would one day be born in a feeding trough, who would walk dusty roads and touch lepers and hang on a Roman cross, he stood in that throne room and witnessed the first betrayal in history. He saw worship turn into war. He saw the crown of creation choose the mirror over the maker. He saw the beginning of evil with his own eyes, which means he knew from the very first moment, before Eden, before Eve, before the whisper, exactly what humanity would be up against. And that knowledge makes God's next move the most shocking decision in all of Scripture.
Because after the war, there was silence, a throne room with empty ranks, a kingdom missing a third of its court, wounds in a realm that had never known loss. And in that silence, God made a decision that no one, not the loyal angels, not the fallen ones, perhaps not even Lucifer himself, could have predicted. He did not build a wall. He did not seal the borders of heaven. He did not end the story in judgment. Instead, he spoke 4 words into the darkness: "Let there be light." But why? Stop and feel the weight of that question. If the war was over, if the rebel was cast down, if heaven was cleansed, why create a new world at all? Why make fragile beings of dust, mortal, breakable, capable of the very same rebellion, and then place them in a garden where the serpent could reach them? This is the question I sealed at the beginning of this video. I told you the answer would not be what you think. It is hidden in a verse most people have never truly read, a verse that describes something happening before the foundation of the world, something that should be impossible. Here it is. The verse is in Revelation, and it describes Jesus with a phrase that breaks the timeline: the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Slow down and let it hit you with its full weight. Before the first human sinned, before Adam touched the fruit, before Eve heard the whisper, before the serpent ever slid into the garden, before Genesis 1:1 itself, in the mind and purpose of God, the Lamb was already slain. And this is not one isolated verse. Peter says it plainly: Christ was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. Paul goes even further. He chose us in him before the foundation of the world. Do you see what this means? The cross was not an emergency plan. It was not heaven scrambling to respond to a crisis. It was not God adapting to a disaster he never saw coming. The rescue was designed before the world was designed. The solution existed before the problem. The cross came before the cradle, the blood before the breath. But if God already knew the cost and chose to pay it, then look again at what he created. Because the material he chose is the strangest choice in the entire story. Picture it. God, having just watched the strongest and most beautiful being in existence destroy himself through pride, stands before the silence of wounded heaven and chooses to create again. But look carefully at what he reaches for. Not another order of magnificent angels, not new beings of fire and light and terrifying glory. He reaches down and picks up dust, dirt, clay, the weakest, most humble, most fragile material imaginable. And onto that dust, he stamps something no seraph, no cherub, no archangel ever received. Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Hear the shock of that. The angels were called servants, messengers, ministers, warriors,
flames of fire, but never, not once in all 66 books of Scripture, are they called the image of God. That title, that impossible designation, was reserved for dust. The beings closest to the throne never received it. The beings made of dirt did. Why? Why would God take the lowest material in creation and crown it with his own identity? Why skip the fire and choose the clay? The answer may be the most beautiful hidden truth in the entire Bible, and it is hiding inside the pattern of the fall itself.
Some believe humanity was always God's first desire, his family, dreamed from eternity, planned independent of any angelic rebellion. Others see a staggering pattern in the sequence. The angels who fell from strength. Their beauty became their idol. Their wisdom became their trap. Their power became their poison. And God, in response, chose the opposite of everything that had failed. He chose weakness. He chose fragility. He chose mortality. He chose beings who would need him every single day just to draw their next breath. Centuries later, Paul seems to glimpse this exact pattern. God chose the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. What if humanity is not a downgrade from angels, but a statement, a declaration written in clay that the family of God would never be built on power, beauty, or self-sufficiency, the very things that corrupted heaven's highest, but on dependence, on trust, on love freely given from the bottom up. Whether by original design or sovereign response, one thing is certain: the image was placed on dust, not on fire, on dust. But that only sharpens the hardest question of all, the one that has kept believers and skeptics awake for 2,000 years, and we cannot avoid it any longer. If God knew Lucifer had fallen, why put the tree in the garden? Why allow the serpent access to Eden at all? Why not build paradise with walls? The answer may be hidden in the nature of the image itself. The image of God is not merely intelligence, not merely creativity or language or dominion. It is choice, the terrifying sacred capacity to say yes or no to God himself. The angels chose. A third chose rebellion. 2/3 chose loyalty. And now a new order of beings, made of dust yet carrying the divine image, had to stand at the same crossroads. What if the tree was never a trap but a throne, a place where a creature of clay could do the one thing the highest angel refused to do: surrender, trust, choose the giver over the gift? Because love with no alternative is not love, it is programming. A garden with no exit is not a home, it is a cage. And God was not building robots, he was building children. And children must be free to leave, for their staying to mean anything at all. The serpent understood this perfectly, and the weapon he chose for his attack, listen closely now, is the detail that ties this entire story into a single knot. Do you remember the 5 sentences? You are about to hear their echo. Genesis says the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field. But make no mistake, this was no random animal wandering through paradise. This was a targeted operation. The fallen cherub, defeated in heaven, stripped of his station, burning with the memory of what he lost, went straight for the new image bearers, the ones made of dust, the ones carrying the very identity he had tried to steal. And here is the echo I promised you. He did not invent a new temptation. He did not need to. He recycled his own destruction. In heaven, his rebellion was born in 5 words: I will be like the Most High. In Eden, he leaned close to the woman and whispered a near-perfect mirror of them: You will be like God. The same lie, the same poison, the same staircase of pride that had already destroyed the most magnificent being in existence. He took the sentence that ended him, wrapped it like a gift, and handed it to the human race. And humanity took the bait. The image bearers fell. Eden closed. By every measure, the serpent had just won his second war. But heaven's response, spoken in that very hour, was not a eulogy. It was a threat, and God aimed it at one specific listener.
Because with shame still fresh, And Eden still warm, God turned not to Adam, not to Eve, but to the serpent, and he delivered the first prophecy in the entire Bible. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Feel the weight of that scene. God looked at the being who had just corrupted his image bearers and told him to his face, a descendant of this woman is coming, a child, a seed, and that seed will crush your skull. The war that began in the throne room of heaven now had a new battlefield, the earth, and a new target, a bloodline. From that moment forward, if you know what to look for, every act of darkness in Scripture becomes the same act repeated across centuries. Destroy the seed before it arrives. Kill the line. Break the promise. Stop the prophecy at any cost. And once you see this pattern, you can never unsee it, because it is hiding on nearly every page of the Old Testament. Watch how many times the entire promise hangs by a single thread. Count the survivors with me. Cain kills Abel, the righteous line seemingly destroyed, but God raises up Seth, one son. The bloodline is corrupted in the days of Noah, but one family rides out the flood, 8 souls. Pharaoh orders every Hebrew boy drowned in the Nile, but one baby floats to safety in a basket of reeds, and his name is Moses, one basket. King Saul hunts David through the wilderness for years, spears and armies against one shepherd, but the royal line of Judah survives, one fugitive. A queen named Athaliah slaughters the entire royal family in a single purge, the line of David reduced to one hidden child, Joash, concealed in the temple for 6 years, one child. Haman engineers a genocide against every Jew in the Persian Empire, but one woman, Esther, stands in the gap for such a time as this, one voice. And finally, in Bethlehem, King Herod orders the massacre of every infant boy, the closest the darkness ever came, but an angel warns Joseph in a dream, and the family flees into the night toward Egypt, one dream. 4,000 years of violence, every villain one target, and every single time the line survives by exactly one. So the serpent stopped, recalculated, and in a desert outside Jerusalem he abandoned armies forever and came in person. What happened in that desert is the climax of the entire cosmic war, and it hinged on a single offer.
Picture the scene. Jesus has been in the wilderness 40 days. No food, no companionship, his body at its absolute weakest, his flesh screaming for relief. And then the tempter appears. No disguise this time. No snake coiled in a garden tree, face to face. For the first time since the throne room, the witness and the fallen one. The one who watched the lightning fall and the lightning itself. And Satan offers him, one by one, the same things he stole from Adam. Turn these stones to bread, satisfy your flesh. Throw yourself from the temple, prove your power. And then the third offer, the one that exposes the true stakes of the entire cosmic war. All the kingdoms of the world I will give you if you will bow down and worship me. Understand exactly what was on the table. A crown without a cross, a throne without a tomb, the kingdoms of the world without Gethsemane, without the whip, without the nails, without the blood. The ultimate shortcut. The serpent was offering Jesus the result without the sacrifice. And for one suspended moment, the fate of every human soul hung on a single answer. If you already know what Jesus answered in that desert, type the word "no" in the comments right now before I say it, because that one word is about to detonate all of history. And Jesus said no, because he had not come to rule the world. He had come to buy it back, and the only currency accepted was his own blood. So the story marches, step by deliberate step, to a hill outside Jerusalem where the one who existed before Genesis 1:1, the one who watched the morning stars sing, the one who saw Lucifer fall like lightning, hangs on a Roman cross. And the darkness celebrates, the seed crushed, the line broken, the ancient war finally won. But buried in Paul's letters is the twist that reframes all of history. None of the rulers of this age understood it.
for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. Read it again. If the powers of darkness had understood what the cross would accomplish, they would have done everything imaginable to stop it. Because the cross was not a defeat, it was a detonation. Having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. The serpent bruised his heel, and in that exact moment, nail through flesh, prophecy through time, the seed crushed his head. The war that began in a throne room before light existed ended on a Friday afternoon in blood. The one who watched Lucifer fall let himself fall so that dust could rise. But if the war is truly over, why does the world still feel like a battlefield? Why does the whisper still reach your ear? Because one front never closed, and you are standing on it.
This was never just their story. Revelation carries a warning that reads like a headline for our own generation, one of the true signs of the times. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. Absorb what that means. The war in heaven is over. He was cast down. The war at the cross is over. His head was crushed. But one battlefield remains, and it is not out among the stars, and it is not in some distant future. It is inside the human mind. Because the same 5 words that brought down the most magnificent angel in existence, the same whisper that ended Eden, is still moving through the world today, dressed in 1,000 modern disguises. You will be like God. You don't need him. You are enough on your own. Your strength, your beauty, your wisdom, they are the source, not the gift. Maybe you have heard that whisper. Maybe you have been listening to it for years without ever knowing its name, in the way you see yourself, in the way you carry your pain, in the way you keep people at a distance and build a quiet kingdom of one. Pride never announces itself. It never kicks down the door. It simply redecorates the room and puts your name above it. But here's what Lucifer never understood. Here's the variable the serpent never calculated. God did not create you to be like him. He created you to be with him. The angels were powerful, glorious, magnificent, but they were never called sons, never called daughters, never invited to the table as family. Lucifer wanted God's throne. God is offering you his table. Lucifer wanted to rise above God. God came down to sit beside you. And that invitation was signed in blood before the foundation of the world. So the question this story leaves behind is not really about angels or thrones or wars in realms you cannot see. It is quieter than that. It is the question Eden asked, the question the wilderness asked, the question that has been waiting patiently for every human being since the beginning. When the whisper comes for you, and it will come, which voice will you believe? He was there before the first angel sang. He was there when the brightest one fell. He was there when the morning stars went silent, when dust became man, when the serpent whispered, when innocence ended, when the nails went in. And if the hidden truths of Scripture are pointing where they seem to point, he is not finished with this story. Because the book that opens with "in the beginning" closes with a voice declaring, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Before the world began, he was there. After the world ends, he will be there. The only chapter still being written is yours." If this opened your eyes to something you had never seen before, subscribe to the Hidden Scrolls for more hidden truths. Every week we go deeper into the biblical mysteries the world has forgotten, because the evidence is only beginning.